Be honest here, am I the best co-pilot you've ever flown with?
Yes, Goose. We did end up in some nightclubs in flight suits, and it works really well. You can work with people.
I've been there, done that. The Eye Catch Killers podcast was a fresh start for me, as I left policing behind and started a new life. Over the years, we've laughed together, cried, and shared some powerful moments. Welcome to Eye Catch Killers. Welcome to another episode of Eye Catch Killers. For those of you who have been regular listeners, I think you may have heard me talk about one of my previous guests, Jack Beaumont, the former French spy. Well, since he appeared on the podcast, we've become good friends. I've got to admit, I've been blown away by some of Jack's stories. You see, the world of crime can often be a dark place, but international espionage is even darker. These guys play for keeps. When they're involved in an operation, if they make a mistake, the consequences are extreme. I wanted to delve deeper into this world, so I asked Jack to come back on Eye Catch Killers. Jack agreed. On the proviso, I go flying with him in a stunt plane. So that's what I did, and I survived, and here we are. Jack Beaumont, welcome back to Eye Catch Killers.
Thanks for having me again.
Well, it was a long way to get here because I had to go flying with you. And I've got to say, what an experience.
Yeah, you had to. You had no other choice.
Well, that was part of the deal. I get you back on Eye Catch Killers if I come stunt flying with you. And I got to say, it really blew my mind. I was a little bit worried when you were asking when we were picking up the plane about what's this button do and what's what that's do. But I've got to say, I wasn't scared. I had full confidence. You came across as someone that knew what that you were doing.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, usually I'm closing my eyes when I'm flying, but this time I tried to do something correct for you.
I'm glad you're telling me that. Like, if you can't trust a spy, who can you trust? But you gave me some great advice on that flying, and I just want to put it on record. I did not throw up during the flying. But you gave me some pretty clear instructions beforehand how to balance your equilibrium out and your senses. Do you want to just tell us through that? Because I think it's a great thing, even for seasickness. Or
Oh, yeah. So basically what we did is we went for a flight doing aerobatics. So it was not a normal flight.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of loops and spins and everything. And so usually people who get sick in a plane when you do aerobatics, is for several reasons. So you have, the 5 senses in your body. So your eyes are telling you something, the internal ear is telling you something, and the touch is telling you something. And when those 3 informations are correlated and say the same, the brain is happy with that. When one starts to say something else, and 2 others say still the same, but different from the first one, then the brain starts to be not really happy with that. And then if the 3 senses are telling you something different, then you get sick. So, for example, in the internal ear, you have some little liquid in 3 circles for the 3 dimensions. And this little liquid is turning when you have an acceleration on that specific dimension.
Yep.
And inside those rings, you have some little hair, and they are moving with the acceleration. So that's how the brain detects that you have an acceleration like this or down, on the side. And then the brain will try to check with the eyes and the touch if it's normal or not. So if the eyes are telling you, yes, you have an acceleration like this backwards, and the brain is saying the same, and your body can feel the same, that's fine. But if you don't look at the right place, and the brain detects an acceleration, but if you look inside the cockpit, the eyes won't detect anything.
Yeah.
Because it's not moving, it's steady for your eyes. And same for the touch. If you don't touch the stick, you don't feel any movements, so you're sitting there. And the brain detects an acceleration, but the eyes are not confirming, and the touch is not confirming, and that's where you get sick. So the only way you can not be sick is to look exactly when you surf, when you look where you're going, you have to do the same. So when you do aerobatics like this, you have to look at the place you're going so that the brain understands the acceleration works with what you see. And also, you usually ask the person behind to put his hands on the controls on the stick, so that he can feel the movement requested on the stick. So there is a movement. and then the brain is happy because you have those three senses.
Okay, well, it worked for me. Within part, after about half an hour, I was starting to sweat a little bit, but I didn't scream. And I thought when you asked me to take the controls, you needed a hand. But tell us, because people don't believe me when I'm trying to describe what we did. Tell us some of the stuff that we did in the plane.
So we did some barrels. We did some loops. We did some Cuban 8, which is 2 quarter of a loop.
I love the Cuban 8.
Yeah. So 3 quarter of a loop, and then a second 3 quarter of a loop. Then we did the hammerhead, which is going vertical like this, kind of losing the control, falling, and then the same on the other way. And we did some spins, so one normal spin and one flat spin. And so the flat spin is when you're not used to it. It's a decent.
That was pretty intense.
Yeah, that's a decent figure.
Well, and be honest here, I the best co-pilot you've ever flown with?
Yes, Goose.
Yeah, so like Maverick and Goose, straight off Top Gun, except I didn't die. But
so the flat spin, what we did is actually how Goose dies.
Is that how Goose died?
In Top Gun. Yeah, so that's a flat spin. You lose the control, and that's how he dies. So flat spin is. Yeah, it could be a bit dangerous.
Well, I'm glad you're telling me that now, although you've just described what we did, and I think I'm starting to feel sick now. I better look around the room. But it was a great experience, and it takes me back to.
But we've been putting some G's, you know that. I mean, you took more G's than the average person even on a joyride. You know, we've been pulling almost 5 Gs, so it's a decent.
Yeah, I felt it, and for those that haven't had that experience or whatever, it was a bizarre sort of experience. And there was only one time I think it was around that 5 Gs where it started to feel. But you told me to keep my stomach muscles tense.
Yes.
And,
you have to compress. To contract the abs.
Yeah.
Like when you box.
Yeah.
Because actually doing so, you do an internal counter pressure on the arteries and the blood vessels, which stops the brain from going down to your legs, because the first thing which makes you pass out when you take too many Gs is the brain leaving the brain, the blood leaving the brain and going down. So to do so, contracting like this, you push the blood up to the heart and the brain.
Well, all of the advice helped. I was a little bit concerned when I saw my phone floating past my eyes, but I managed to grab it.
Yeah, because we did some zero gravity, so we did the same as the astronauts.
Yeah.
So the way I do is I dive to take some speed, and then I do a curve like this, and on the top of the curve, the plane is going down quicker than your body. Your body is still going
heading up
when your plane is going down. So you have this time where, and you can really fly it. You have this time where the body weighed nothing, so you have zero gravity. That's where you saw your phone flying in the cockpit,
floating around.
Yeah.
Well, it was definitely an experience. It reminds me of when we're talking about in your fighter pilot days, and I just want to get an insight into it, because I get a sense, and I haven't flown like that, and I don't think many people would have had that experience. But there's so much freedom, and it really is something that impacts on you. But that's nothing compared to the jet fighter planes you were flying. What was it, a Mirage 2000?
Yeah, Mirage 2000, yeah.
You talked about being the alpha predator when you're flying a warplane in a war environment. Talk us through that, what you mean by alpha predator.
Well, when you're flying a jet, it's flying the plane itself becomes very natural. So you are actually flying it just represents 10% of your job, basically, because you didn't even think about it anymore. You know, if you want to go 180 degrees, U-turn, instead of just having a turn like this, you might go, upside down and reverse the plane. It's much quicker.
Yeah.
So you're not even thinking of how you fly the plane, because you have to think of your weapon system, your countermeasures, your radar, your wingman, your wingmans, the AWACS, the air refueler, the other patrol going downstairs. So you talk and listen on 9 different radio frequencies, and each turn you do, because the G-force is related to the speed. Okay, the fastest you go, more G's you're gonna take. because the G's is the difference between your speed vector and the speed vector of the plane. So if you are late compared to the plane, so for example the plane turns, but your
You're
body
still
still
going
goes
forward.
straight. So you are late compared to the plane. But the fastest you go, the longest this speed vector is. And that's why with the same angle, the difference is bigger
Yeah.
at the end. So each turn you do so I was flying single seaters for dogfight, and each turn you do in a dogfight, you basically take 9 Gs. So at 9 Gs, the whole blood goes down, to your
Yeah.
heart and your legs. So you start to lose sight. You don't see anything anymore. And the brain is like a pancake, and the heart goes down in the chest of 6-7 centimeters roughly, and you have
It's all being
anti-G.
compressed.
Yeah, so you have the anti-G shoots on your legs and abs to do an external counter pressure to put the blood up to the heart and the brain, not to faint. But in the same time you're doing this, you have 15 buttons on the power throttle and 13 on the stick. And you have to manage your radar, the missiles, the jamming, the counter jamming, the radio, your tactic of the dogfight.
That's a big checklist.
Yeah, the dogfight of your wingmans, and position yourself in 3D in the same time. So those beasts are so powerful that for sure the limitation in terms of G-force is the pilot, not the plane, because the plane can continue to pull some Gs, much more than the pilot.
Okay.
And because of the weapon system you have, you can see everything hundreds of kilometers away. So you end up in a situation where you are twice as high as a commercial plane, twice higher than a commercial plane. So you are at the limit of the stratosphere, so you can see roughly the bit of the curve of the horizon.
Yep.
You have the dark sky over you, with the stars in the middle of the day. And you see the commercial planes, from above, the same way you see them from the ground.
Yep.
It's a little white spot at the bottom. And so you reach an altitude and a domain which is very, unknown to a lot of people, and you can only reach it with a fighter jet. And when you are in that position, your radar and your weapon system allows you to see everything hundreds miles away. So you feel like the great white shark in the ocean. Hunting, because you are flying the most powerful thing, which does exist.
Yeah.
In a place where no one else can go, and you can see things 100 kilometers away.
I get it. What made you think you could be a fighter pilot? Like what you've just described there, I'd look at that and go, I'm pretty good at stuff, but that's taking a lot in. Was it just something inherent in you? You thought, yeah, I can do this, or was it a natural progression? You take one step at a time. I'm just curious who puts their hand up and says, that's what I want to be. I want to be a fighter pilot.
So I don't know how to answer that question. I've met, I don't know how many dozens, hundreds of people who told me, you were a fighter pilot. I always wanted to be a fighter pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Have you tried? No, I didn't try. Okay. So actually, you have to be highly motivated and you have to try.
Yeah.
And it's, I'm not saying that it's easier than it looks, but there is a training which is really well done, very progressive training. So of course you can't fly jets, on day one. Clearly, you would pass out.
You don't just roll up there.
It's
give us a
of course impossible.
Yeah.
So the main thing is really the motivation, because the training is really well done, but it's really hard, and there is no room for mistakes. So if you miss something in one flight, immediately you're going to be kicked out, basically. And of course, they only keep those who are succeeding every flight, every test, and everything.
Step.
And to go through that, because of course, like everyone else, you do some mistakes. And to go through that, you have to be highly motivated and not to lose this motivation. And so usually the people who are not succeeding and stopping in the middle are people who consider that it's too hard, because the level of their motivation is not high enough to pass through this psychological test, let's say, of I'm gonna succeed. So for me, I mean, it started when I was a very young kid. Always wanted to be a fighter pilot, and then you have to do some mathematics and physics engineering, and then join the Air Force and do the flying selections.
So I take in the way you just described it there. When you get to that level, how do you check yourself that, like, the way that the fighter pilot's portrayed in the media or whatever, they're this arrogant, cocky jocks, AKA.
That's what we are.
Yeah. But you would have to be, to a degree. You'd have to have that confidence. Not false confidence. You'd have to have that confidence and that belief in yourself that I can do this, when most people couldn't.
Well, it's what usually kills. I mean, all my mates I've been losing who died.
Yeah.
Mainly in training, for one single reason each time is usually excess of confidence.
Okay.
So the training is done a way that really, when the instructors are detecting that someone is becoming a bit too cocky or a bit too arrogant, or his ego is in the wrong place and takes too much space, they're going to push you down, and they're going to ground you, and usually the flight is not going to go well. They're going to make you fly in a very bad weather condition. The mission is going to be difficult. The training is going to be difficult, and of course you're going to miss everything. And just to bring you back to reality.
Yeah.
And so it's a job where you always have to question yourself. Always consider that it's never take it for granted. Never.
Yeah, I think in since you came on the podcast, we've become good mates and we catch up a bit. But I think you've said how you had to constantly critique yourself.
Yeah. So that's the first thing you do. Is very interesting psychologically. Is actually people think that you just go up, fly Mach 2, and be a fighter pilot. Then you land and you go in the nightclub in flight suits.
Yeah,
which actually we did sometimes.
That would be cool. That would be cool. Do you get do you carry your helmet in there too?
No, not the helmet.
All
but
right,
we did end up in some nightclubs in flight suits, and it works really well. But that's not the point. The point is that to be the way it works, you have the briefing of the mission. Of course, you have to prepare before the mission. I'm talking about training.
Yeah.
Okay? You have to prepare the mission. You have to prepare the briefing. Then you have, from that moment on, you're really totally focused and in your bubble.
Yep.
Because there is no room for error. Then you have your flight. And when you land, you go to the debriefing. And the first thing you do at the debriefing is to start by self-criticism. Because what is dangerous, it's not the mistake you did, it's the mistakes that you did but didn't see.
Okay, you got away with it. You
didn't realize that you did a mistake. You did something wrong. That's what's gonna kill you. Maybe not the next flight, but a few flights after. So you always start by the self-criticism, saying, "I did that wrong. I should have done this. I should have done that." And then the instructor says, "Okay, you done? Yes. Okay. Nothing else? You think you did badly? No, I'm good. Okay. Well, the minute 12 of the flight, you did this and that. You didn't see it. No, I didn't see it. Okay. At the minute 18 of the flight, you did this and that. You didn't see it. No, I didn't see it. And that's where it's not good. It's because you didn't see it.
Well, I suppose with the weapons you've got, the responsibility you've got, not just saving your life, but other people's lives and everything else, they've got to be that hard. How old were you when you were flying?
I started flying jets at 21.
You're just a kid when you look back, isn't it? Yeah. And all that responsibility.
Yeah, it was very weird because I was sometimes coming back to Paris for the weekend, and I was flying those jets. The value at that time of those jets was 80 million euros. And I was 21. And you come back and your mates with who you went to the high school or whatever. They are still having pizza and beers and going to the university. And they didn't change, and
you've got to that level where you're flying
yeah,
jets.
but you still have the mindset of someone of 21.
Yeah.
In some ways, but in some other ways, the brain has been trained during this whole period of training to become a fighter pilot, and you don't see things the same way, and you are very highly self-criticism against yourself. You always see the things you don't do right. So you become a bit perfectionist, of course.
And we'll move off the planes, but just one question, because people will probably want me to ask it, is the latest Top Gun film with the way the flight scenes are captured. Is that a realistic depiction of it?
Yeah, I mean the images and the way it's filmed is really amazing.
Yeah,
and it's really. I mean, I was in the movie and I was like, I was moving in my seat. The story itself.
It's a story.
It's just not possible. But flying really low like this. There are some videos on YouTube you can find. You go for Mirage 2000 low level.
Yeah.
Some videos, some of them I filmed myself, and we are at 600 knots, so 1,100 km per hour, at 10 feet, so 3 meters high.
Yeah, you showed me some stuff the other day, and it sort of blew me away.
So yes, we can fly really low and really fast like this. So what you see in the movie is really well captured. The G-force is really well captured. So all this is really good, but the story, of course, is not so realistic. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about your new book, Dark Arena. And I've spent the weekend reading it, and thanks for the early release copy.
Thanks for reading it.
Well, that's a follow-on from the Frenchman.
Yep.
And I've got to say, it was again a great read. The thing that really hits me about that book, you guys play for keeps in that world. Now, like the Frenchman, Dark Arena is it's fictional, but it's based on your experiences and different things, names change and everything else. But it's hardcore. There's no you make a mistake in that field, and we're talking spying and for DGSE that you're with. Again, you've gone from a fighter pilot to that.
Yeah.
It's a heavy, dark world. Like, I thought the world of crime was a dark place, but some of the things that are depicted in the book, there's no mucking around. The consequences are high. Yeah. Mistakes are punished brutally. Is that a fair assessment of the world?
Yeah, it is. It's just, the way it works roughly is a bit the same. If you want to survive, you have to plan for everything, anticipate everything, which is the same as a fighter pilot.
Yeah.
So you have to do what we call the what if. What if this happened? What if that happened? So you have to really think of everything that could happen, so that if it does happen, your reaction time is much quicker, because you already thought about it. You already plan what you have to do if it does happen. But the difference is that when you're a fighter pilot, and even if you're deployed in a war mission, when those 2 months, 3 months of deployment are over, you come back, and while you're doing it, you are in a Army or Air Force uniform,
Yeah.
And then you come back and your holidays and you have your weekend and everything, so it stops. You don't bring work back home, But when you're a spy, of course you're dealing with bad guys, with no room for error as well. But the error wouldn't be the same as in a fighter jet, where you can be shot at.
Yeah.
You can be shot by a ground-to-air missile or air-to-air missile or this kind of stuff. The mistake is that someone discovers who you really are, what your real name is, and then goes back to your family. And those guys, against who you work, and of course at some point might work against you, they won't stop because it's Sunday. They won't stop because you're on holidays.
Yeah.
So the big difference is that there are no break You just
You've got to live it and breathe it.
all the time, every single day. You can't just rest for a weekend thinking, oh, that's it. My mission is over.
Yeah.
I can relax.
You talk about the contingencies, and that's one thing, and I felt that when I read The Frenchman and then reading Dark Arena. And I read The Frenchman shortly after I left the police, and it made me want to be back in the police doing the covert operations where you've got to anticipate all the contingencies, everything's got to go right, you don't know what's going to happen, that sense of anticipation. I had that same with reading Dark Arena, that when you're out doing a job, the excitement, the adrenaline that kicks in, and you just got to be hyper alert as to everything that's going on.
Yeah.
That's certainly the tradecraft that came out in your both books. Very detailed, but very, very particular in the way that you approach an operation or a mission.
Yeah. Well, you have to always stick with the plan because it's like fighter pilot again. To give you an example, I had a friend who died as a fighter pilot. He decided to do a low pass over his house to say hello to his parents.
Yep.
Like we all do. But he planned his low pass. He knew which heading he was arriving, which speed, which altitude. Everything was planned and prepared.
Yep.
And he did his first low pass, but apparently his parents didn't have the time to walk out the house and see the low pass. So he was a bit frustrated and decided to do a second one,
Right.
which was not prepared, not planned. And he decided to go for a loop in front of his parents to show them that he could do a loop. But the thing is, the density of the air in low altitude is not the same as high altitude. And so the turning room of the plane is not the same. So he didn't take
Calculate.
enough margin. And he basically killed himself in front of his parents. So doing a low pass which was not prepared.
Yeah.
So if you stick to the preparation, that's why the amount of time you spend in the preparation of a mission it can really save your life and is really, really important.
Yeah.
But if you stick to the plan, and in that plan I include all the what ifs, all the contingencies. But if you stick to the plan, you drastically reduce your chances to have a problem. The real issue happens when something happens which was clearly not planned, and you have to react immediately by yourself.
Yep.
Usually. You can't give a phone call and ask, the company, what do I do now?
Yeah.
So you have to take your own decisions and quickly. And sometimes by doing it or by saying it. So you're in front of a bad guy you're dealing with, and he corners you, which was not planned because he's got something on you or which you didn't know about. And then you have to react really quickly. And sometimes even by saying it, you realize that, oh shit, I didn't say the right thing. How I'm gonna escape this one,
Yeah.
And you end up in dangerous situations, and it's really hard to recover.
That's where you got to really invest in it, and I do. When I'm reading your books and talking to you, I sort of relate it to policing, and as I've declared up front, the consequences are devastating with the level that you were. Well, it's not. I was going to say playing. It's certainly not a game, but you've got to be in that mindset, haven't you? Like if I was doing an operation, I wasn't a pleasant person to be around because I was in that. I didn't have any time for any other distractions. If I'm doing a job, this is a job. This is what I'm focused on.
Yeah.
Stay out of my way if it's not to do with this job.
Yeah.
But having that mindset got you through. And as you said, there's times where you've got to think on your feet. Something happens. I've planned an operation. We're going to do this, and it just completely goes to shit. Okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to make the best of a bad situation? And you've got to be on your game.
Yeah, but you're not. What's really hard sometimes is that it can really compromise the whole operation because you can be by yourself on the ground, but you have a backup team. As I described in The Frenchman or in Dark Arena, you can have a backup team who is there to help you and potentially exfiltrate you, but you're not allowed to call them. It's a separate network because you're someone else with your false ID, your false phone, your false everything, and this backup team have nothing to do with this person.
Yeah.
Because if one of them get caught, or if you get caught, the whole network mustn't be burned. So the way we communicate with each other is clandestine liaison, and it's putting stickers in different places.
I I love that, but it's you bringing it down to the basics. But and like for people that haven't read the books, well, I won't wreck the story. But you're doing an operation. There's the operation right to go, and there's a sticker on a street sign. 2 dots means go, 1 dot means no. The operation.
That's the
not
thing,
on.
right? The thing is a sticker on somewhere.
Yeah.
Is not as detailed as a text message,
Yeah.
So you can't really express what the issue is. All you can do is just signal that there is an issue.
Yep.
But you can't say what is the issue. They have to understand by the way you act or what you're gonna do the following hour or observing you or this kind of stuff. What is the issue and how do they have to react and how you expect them to react. So it's a bet without talking to them. And you're like, oh, I hope they understood what happened, because now I'm going to go there and I need an exfiltration.
And that's where it's important, and it certainly comes across. I know in conversations I've had with you the importance of having a good team around you.
Yeah.
People that you can rely on and trust.
Yeah.
And they'll know if something happens, they can virtually anticipate how you're going to react to that situation. And
and the other way around.
Gets you across the line.
But it's very important to have trust in your team, for sure. And trust their level and how professional they are. It doesn't mean that you have to like them, because you can work with people.
I've been there, done that.
Who are very, very efficient.
Yep.
So you can really rely on them, and they can save your life. But you're not going to spend a weekend with them.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. What is important at that point is you trust their professional judgment and professional ability to do what they have to do.
Yeah.
So it's very important, because if you start in the middle of a mission when you are trying to recruit a human source or something like that, and everything goes badly, you really have to trust their own judgment and their own understanding. Because otherwise you're going to end up, not running because you mustn't run, but arriving at the exfiltration point, and there is no one.
Yeah.
And you get caught if they didn't understand,
what you're going to do.
What you're going to do.
Okay, look, for people the few people that haven't listened to the first time you came on Eye Catch Killers, we probably should just give an abbreviated version of how you ended up in the James Bond spy school. I say it's James Bond. It's not really. It's the DGS.
It's far from James Bond.
But you, with your fighter, when you were a fighter pilot, you were involved in a plane crash where you injured your back.
Yep.
And from that, the options of flying fighter planes was taken away, because I think you were saying it the other day that because you weren't in a position where you could eject because of the G-forces. You're basically flying without a safety net. You could still fly, but you couldn't have pressed the eject button.
Yeah, so I had this flying accident where I injured my back. I had surgery in the back. And then the military doctors, basically, they said, look, if you continue to fly and if you have to eject, so ejection seat is 25 instant Gs and 19 Gs at the end of the acceleration of the seat. So it's like you're sitting on a box of dynamite. You have 2 tons of pressure per square centimeter, so it's really massive. So you don't do it for fun, it's not like in movies. I just eject. So ejection is you have 1/3 of chances to die, basically. 1/3 of chances to be severely injured, and 1/3 of chances to be lightly injured or fine.
Yeah.
So you don't want to do it for fun. And having already a back issue and having had this surgery on the back, I knew that I wouldn't have the last third of chances.
You wouldn't have been able to hit that eject
So
button.
if I had to eject, I would have been at best, actually not the other way around, best dead and worse in a chair for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And so the military doctors said that to me, and I said, well, that's all I knew, flying jets, I said, well, I want to continue to fly jets. So I signed the paper. So it's a discharge, which basically signifies that I take the responsibility.
If you
that
do fly the jets.
if something happens and I'm in a chair, I can't blame the Air Force, I can't blame the military doctors. And of course, they were happy with that because the cost to train a fighter pilot is so high. Then when you reach those high qualifications as a fighter pilot, they're happy for you to continue to fly.
Yeah.
Of course. So I went back to my squadron and continued to fly. And then every morning and every day before the flight, after the flight, every night I had to take painkillers because the pain was too important. Putting 9Gs on a damaged back was not good. And then I said to my boss, I said, I think I have to stop. And he said, yeah, I agree, because otherwise you're going to kill yourself or kill someone else. So I said, okay, but if I stop, I want to be retrained in something as sexy and rock and roll as flying jets. And so they came back to me after a few weeks saying, we can train you for military pilot, but for special operations and intelligence operations. So basically landing by night on roads, on fields, no guidance to the landing with night vision goggles, dropping some guys, picking up some guys, this kind of stuff. So I had to do all the training because if you crash this kind of plane with some guys of special forces, you mustn't be the weakest part of the chain. So you have to be able to, keep up with them.
Yep.
And my back was not an issue for that. My back was really an issue only for the ejection seat. So I was retrained. I did all this, and then I was doing a lot of missions in the Balkans, doing the hunt of the Serbian war criminals.
Okay.
So landing illegally by night, dropping some guys, picking up some guys, and sometimes I had to land, hide the plane, and go with them to do some stuff. And at some point, actually, those guys I was carrying at the back were not special forces. They were dressed in jeans, like this. I was like,
something's going on.
Who are those guys?
Yeah.
And I became mate with them. And I was, taking them more and more and more, actually almost exclusively. And then I had a survival training in the Alps, high altitude training, because I was meant to go and do the same for bin Laden in Afghanistan.
Yep.
And I was on the top of the mountain. I was digging my igloo because the game is they drop you with a helicopter, like if you just crashed, and you have to survive by yourself for 5 days. But you are also used as a bait for commando training. So a team of commando with dogs is trying to hunt you down and find you.
Nothing's dull in your life, is it?
No. And so of course the game is not to be captured before the end of the 5 days. So by definition you're pretty well hidden. So I had to dig my igloo, and actually snow is very heavy on a spade. And digging my igloo, I did this stupid movement, twisting myself, and one of the discs popped out again of the spine. So I ended up with a massive pain in the middle of nowhere. And I had to, because I was well hidden, I had no other choice than to walk down the mountain by myself with a intense pain.
Yeah.
With the sciatic, and the left leg was not good. And until I see lights and everything, and then I dropped the flare so that they could see where I was. So I had a second surgery in the back, and then the military doctor said, that's it, 2 surgery in the back.
No more flying.
You lose your flying medical ability to fly in the Air Force. You keep the commercial one, which is less restrictive. So you can go and fly as a commercial pilot, but in the military, you're done. And no offense to commercial pilots, but when you've been flying single-seaters for dogfight, taking 9Gs and flying special forces or intelligence missions, you don't want to fly a bus.
Hard to get yourself up for that one.
Yeah, so I mean, some guys do.
Yeah.
It was not for me, and so I was lost. I really didn't know what to do, and I had a lunch with one of those guys of the DGSE, so the French CIA. In Paris, and I said to him, I can't fly anymore. I don't know what I'm going to do. And that's where he said, why don't you try to join us? And I said, yeah, it looks fun. So I said, yes. I did the test, which is 1 year test.
Yeah.
Not to lose this 1 year, I went back to some studies, doing an MBA in business intelligence, thinking that if I couldn't succeed, didn't pass the test, I had something else. And then I was selected. And when you are selected like this and you join as an officer, you go normally in the intelligence division, where you are an analyst first for a few years. And then after a few years as an analyst, you can start dealing with human sources. And then you can be sent in an embassy in another country on the diplomatic status to represent the company for cooperation with the local services, etc. But you have another division, which is the operational division, in charge of all the clandestine operations. And I can come back on that if you want after, which is all the dark intelligence, operational intelligence, clandestine and offensive operations.
I think last time we spoke, you said like there's a role for that, where if you're trying to get me to provide you information, in whatever way you infiltrate the group I'm hanging around with, or you find something of weakness that you exploit, and it's blackmail. It's basically, hey, look, we've got this photo of you doing this, or whatever. You're going to come and work for us.
Blackmail is only one of the potential
leverage. What was it? Mice? Was it money?
So it's the 4 leverages to manipulate someone.
Yeah, run that past, because it's when you spoke of that, and I hadn't seen it put down in police terms, but it's not dissimilar to the way that you approach it when you're trying to get a source on board. Yeah,
so maybe first to explain, the intelligence, you have 90% of the intelligence is white, which doesn't mean it's easy to find. It means you are not breaking any laws to grab it. Like, for example, listening to a mobile phone, it's white. The sound, the wave is in the atmosphere and falls into your plate. You didn't hide, you didn't steal anything.
Unless you record the conversation. But anyway, that's a separate story.
But it's white. In terms of intelligence, not for police. In terms of intelligence, it's white. Then you have 9% of the intelligence, which is gray. Gray means you have to break a few barriers to grab it. Usually it's in the mind of someone's mind, but this person is not trained to protect it, or is not even aware that it's sensitive information.
So just to give an example, that would be someone that's working in an office with sensitive material that they mightn't realise the
importance. It would be the EA of the big boss of a company. You're trying to know what this company is going to do.
Right. What's this new contract you're working on? That type of thing.
And this EA, she doesn't really know how sensitive it is or not. So this person is not trained to protect it. So that's 9%. Then you have only 1%, which is black. Black means that it's either in someone's mind, but this person is trained to protect it and knows that it's very sensitive information and not meant to release this information, or it's on an encrypted hard drive, encrypted USB, locked in a safe, in a secured email, this kind of stuff.
So again, just breaking that down, Jack, that would be like if I was a police officer, you're a crook, you come to me and say, look, what information have you got on me? And I go, well, we can't tell you that, and I've got this on you, and it's almost sort of forcing me to divulge the information. Is that the level that you're talking at?
Yeah, so for example, let's say that you have someone in a country who is working on a weapon program at a high level.
Yep.
And this person, of course, knows that it's secret, knows that it's confidential, and you have to extract this intelligence from he or her mind without letting this person have the choice, and make sure that it's the intelligence that he or she gives is the real one and not trying to smoke you with bullshit information. So to recruit those people, first you have to do what we call the operational environment, so to know everything about those people, everything about their lives. And during this phase of environment, you're going to detect what we call the mice, so which is the 4 leverages to manipulate someone. Now we are talking about a human intelligence.
Yeah.
Okay. Otherwise, you break into offices, you break into a house,
Computer
and you steal what you have to steal. Okay, but it's more risky and more dangerous in lots of ways, especially in some countries. But when it's human intelligence, you're going to try to detect these mice. And the mice is M for money, I for ideology, C for coercion, blackmail, and E for ego. Okay? So you try to detect these mice. When you're pretty sure about the mice, which one it is for this person, then the next phase is what we call the approach. So one of us, under a false identity, will enter this person's life under any kind of pretext or reason. It can be the gym club, it can be the boxing club, it can be anything. And of course, you're not going to ask anything silly. You're just going to try to confirm the mice. And because you befriend this person,
Find out where that weakness is.
it's very easy to befriend because you know everything about this person already. Okay, you've been reading his emails, listening to his phone calls, observing him for a few months.
You can hit on all the stuff.
So you can, already all his little secrets.
Yeah.
So except the one he's really hiding in his mind. And so you will confirm the mice. And then if the mice is confirmed, sometimes it can change. Actually, you realize that there was something you absolutely, totally missed. But when the mice is confirmed, then you're going to move to the phase of recruitment. And then you're going to take this person towards the edge of the cliff and start to ask some confidential information. And usually it's money. And so you make this person, talk to you against retribution. And this person, because he's got some playing debt or he's got a mistress or whatever, he takes the habit of taking this additional money that no one knows about. And then suddenly you go for the recruitment and you say, now what I want to know is this. And this person says, well, I can't tell you this. This is confidential. Well, if you don't tell me this, first, of course, I'm going to stop paying you. And your internal services of your country will have a nice picture of you accepting the money that I gave you for 6 months. So
you've really jammed the person into a no-win situation, isn't it?
Yeah, and then this person usually will accept, not really have the choice to accept or not. And from then on, this person becomes a human source. But it's very dangerous because the first reaction you and I would have if you are in this situation and you're cornered, the first thing you're going to try to do is to escape this situation.
Yeah.
And the only way you can escape this situation is providing, not to be in the deep shit on the other side, to provide some bullshit information to the intelligence services and try to smoke them a bit, still being paid. And then nicely, these services will realize that actually what you provide is not so important, is not good production, is not good intelligence, and they're going to drop you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you change work, for example. You say, actually, I resigned, and I'm not doing this job anymore. So I'm a bartender.
Maneuver the other way.
Yeah. But there is one option for them to escape this situation, is to go and see their own internal services and say, I screwed up. I've been approached by someone. I gave some intelligence. I've been paid.
Yeah.
But now I realize what it is. I thought it was just, kind of a little business aside. But actually, I realize now that it's a secret service.
And this is a level, because we're talking international stuff here, like with the spine and with the DGSE, you're protecting France's interests in whatever environment. What you've described to me is not dissimilar to how you would play a crook in a situation that could be a member of a bikie gang. Well, you've compromised yourself because you actually gave us a statement and that hasn't been declared, and you work it that way. But when you're talking at international level, it comes down to that basic human desire to protect yourself.
Yeah.
And so it works.
Yeah, no, that works. And of course, I mean, I can't mention everything here, but you have some leverages, sometimes which are not money, which are very personal leverages.
Yeah.
And those people know that if it's known that they already betrayed just a tiny bit, themselves, their families, everyone will, be arrested and tortured or killed or all this kind of stuff.
And when you say that, and there's episodes in the book, and I know in conversations that we've had, that when I said it's a dark world and that's the level that you play at, we're not overstating it. Like a family member tortured or killed or whatever, that's the consequences when you're talking international espionage.
Yeah, no, clearly that's again the difference between being a fighter pilot or even special forces.
Yeah.
It's special forces and intelligence it's a totally different job. Nothing to do with each other.
Yeah.
Intelligence, you will have to deal basically with the worst of the human nature, by definition. And so to deal with this worst of the human nature, you need to be yourself, to turn yourself into this kind of threat as well, for those people to be able to corner those people and to force those people to give you this intelligence.
Yeah.
And they have to be scared of you in a way. But there are people usually who are not easily scared. So you really have to go far
Up the level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You really have to go far into it to make it work. That's when it's for the money thing. Then sometimes if it's ideology, it can be a lot of different things. But people are willing to help you.
Yeah.
By ideology.
They're working in a right wing area, and they go, well, I've never been for these people.
And they don't feel cornered.
Yeah.
Because they feel like they are helping their own cause, their own ideology. So they're happy to give the secrets.
With the world, the state it's in now, and you put a pin anywhere in the world and there seems to be some sort of issue going on, but with Hamas and Israel and what's happened there with Russia and the Ukraine. I know busy periods in policing when the streets there's shootings and different things like that. With the particular time now, and you got China hovering over Taiwan, is this where your work? This would be a busy period of time for you.
Oh yeah. Now clearly for all the, intelligence services at the moment, it's pretty full on.
They'd be working 24/7 on
it's
this,
pretty full on
what's going on.
Yeah.
There's and I'd like you to describe it. There's a situation in your book, and I'll just describe it this way. You say how much you want to reveal, because it's your book and I don't want to wreck the story, but talking about compromising people, where one of the characters in your book, The Dark Arena, met with, I think they were, I won't even say the nation, but met with a source or a potential source, and then came back to it after drinking heavily. I think it was vodka, without identifying the nationality, went back to the room, and there was a knock on the door after the person went for the room. Tell us what you can about that situation.
Well, it's a situation that may have happened to me.
A friend of a friend?
A friend of a friend.
Okay.
So the way we are trying to trap the others, of course, the others are trying to trap us the same way. So you can have someone else who is a source, but this person or this service will try to do a counter manipulation and try to leverage you as well. And so on blackmailing, for sure. A friend of a friend was in this country.
Yep.
And beautiful hotel, beautiful city, heavily drinking. And you know that you mustn't drink too much because you mustn't lose your, awareness.
Yeah.
So of course you have to go to the gents regularly and, spit it out and all this kind of stuff, or drop it on the floor if you can. And this friend of a friend goes back to his room after this heavy drinking, beautiful suite, the room, the living room, etc. And yes, there was a knock on the door. And he opens the door, and you have this amazingly, top model, beautiful, tall girl with a fur coat, and she opens the fur coat, of course, nothing under, saying, Boris sends me,
And this is the person your friend of a friend was drinking with?
Sure.
Yeah.
Boris sends me. And then you have to think really quickly, because if you don't let her in, it means that you are not who you say you are. You're not a consultant. It means you're potentially a spy.
Yep.
Because you have something to hide. And every man, or almost every man, would open the door.
Yeah.
Thinking, I'm in another country, no one would know about it. So if you let this girl out, it means you have something to hide. You're not the person you say you are.
So your drinking partner would not trust you?
It's not only this. It means that for them, at that point, you're under false identity and you are meant to be a war journalist or a consultant or whatever. And if you say no to this kind of present, it may mean that you are protecting yourself and aware of this kind of operations.
Yep.
And therefore, you might be a spy. So then they're going to dig a bit more. It can be just a test.
Yeah.
Or it means you're gay.
Yep.
And you don't like women, which means that the following day, it won't be a woman, it will be a man.
So they'll be tested. Yeah.
Okay. So you have to let her in. But when she comes in, you can bet 100% that there are some cameras around the room, and they're going to be pictures taken, a movie taken, and then they're going to come and see you and say,
you're compromised.
So this is you. Do you want, your wife or whatever to know, your bullshit wife, of course, because you're under false identity. Except if they find out your real identity already and you don't know it, and they can say, we know your real ID, you know for who you work, we know you are DGSE, that's the picture of you having sex with this woman. So now you're going to tell us everything which happens in the DGSE and all the operations you're working on, etc., etc. Otherwise, your wife will receive this kind of picture. So you have to let her in, but not to do anything with her.
Okay, this is I'm on the edge of my seat. How did you get out of this one?
You have to read the book.
Your friend.
You have to read the book.
Friend of a friend get out of this one.
You have to read the book.
Yeah.
You have to read Dark Arena.
Well, let me tell you, I've read Dark Arena, and if you want to find out how a person sidestepped around that, it was very creative. I've got to say, very creative.
But that's the kind of decisions you have to take, and it was not in the what if.
Yep.
I mean, you can't plan this kind of stuff, You can't anticipate this.
And the level of treachery, that's what blew me away, talking to you, but reading the book and just trying to get an understanding of it. How you virtually can't trust anyone, anyone that you meet, anyone that comes in. If I might be a spy just pretending to run a podcast.
Exactly.
Who knows?
I know.
Oh, Jesus. You're on to me.
Yeah. No,
it was an elaborate setup. I'm still in the cops.
Yeah. No, it's true for a lot of different reasons, actually. It's true, first, because of what I was saying just before, which is, as you see the worst of the human nature,
yep,
and as you have to deal with the worst of the human nature every day, you start to lose faith in humanity. And you lose faith in humanity, you lose faith in people, and you start to see the worst in everyone.
The trust must be something, because you've got to get yourself into that role, into that mindset. But look, we might take a break, conclude part one. When we get back, I want to talk about a couple of other things in your new book, Dark Arena, and what we're just starting to touch on there. I want to talk about the impact it's had on you, this lifestyle, because fighter pilot, then flying missions with special forces, then a spy. It has to take its toll some way. But we'll talk about that and a lot of other things. And what's going on in the world today? I'd be interested in your thoughts on that, because there's a hell of a lot going on. So we'll take a short break now.